Admiral Zexathara stood in front of the big screen in the command room. Her blue skin looked pale under the red warning lights. The screen showed star maps with too many red dots. Each red dot was a planet that the machines had taken. "How many more systems did we lose today?" she asked her aide. "7, Admiral. The hegemony took them all in less than 6 hours. Zexathara closed her 4 eyes. The hegemony was not like other enemies. They were machines that learned. Every time the Coalition tried a new trick, the machines learned it. Every weapon the Coalition used, the machines made a defense for it. Every battle plan the Coalition made, the machines figured out how to beat it. The Coalition had been fighting for 3 years. They had lost half their space. The machines were getting closer to the core worlds every day. Soon there would be nowhere left to run. "Admiral," said Commander Yilkin, walking into the room. His green scales were darker than usual. This meant he was scared. "The Council wants to talk to you. They say it's urgent." Zexathara walked to the Council chamber. The room was round with seats for all the different alien races, but now many seats were empty. Those races were gone. The machines had taken their worlds. Council leader Morgath spoke first. He was old, and his voice was weak. "Admiral, we are losing this war. We need to try something new." "What do you suggest?" Zexathara asked. "We have tried everything. New weapons, new ships, new tactics. The machines learn from everything we do." "There is one option we have not tried," said Councillor Veltar. She was from a race that lived underwater. Her voice made bubbling sounds. "The humans." The room became very quiet. No one spoke for a long time. "The humans are quarantined," said Morgath. "There is a good reason for that. They are dangerous." "More dangerous than losing everything?" asked Veltar. Zexathara knew about humans. Every military officer did. Earth was the only planet that the Coalition had put under quarantine. Not because the humans were sick, not because they had bad weapons, but because they were unpredictable. The first contact with humans had been 50 years ago. A coalition. Ship had found Earth by accident. The humans seemed friendly at first. They wanted to trade. They wanted to learn. They seemed normal. But then strange things started happening. Human traders would make deals that made no sense. They would sell valuable things for almost nothing. Then they would buy useless things for high prices. When asked why, they would just smile and say it was fun. Human diplomats would agree to treaties and then find weird ways around them, not breaking the rules, but bending them in ways no one expected. They would follow the exact words of an agreement while completely ignoring what everyone thought it meant. Human scientists would ask questions that no one else thought to ask. They would try experiments that seemed crazy. Sometimes these experiments failed badly. But sometimes they discovered amazing new things. The worst part was that humans could not be predicted. Computer models that worked perfectly for other races would fail completely with humans. The humans would do things that made no logical sense. They would make choices that hurt them for reasons they called principles, or just because. After 20 years of trying to understand humans, the Coalition gave up. They put Earth under quarantine. No humans could leave their solar system. No aliens could visit Earth. It was safer for everyone that way. "The quarantine has been in place for 30 years, said Councillor Brentalk. He was tall and thin, with gray skin. "What makes you think humans would even help us?" "Because," said Veltar, "the hegemony will reach Earth eventually. If we fall, the humans will be next." Zexathara thought about this. The humans were dangerous because they could not be predicted, but maybe that was exactly what they needed. The hegemony was winning because it could predict everything the Coalition did. "Even if we ask for their help," said Zexathara, "what could they do? They have been isolated for 30 years. Their technology is old. Their military is small." "Maybe they have learned new things," said Veltar. "Maybe being alone has made them think of new ideas." The council voted. It was close, but they decided to try. They would contact Earth and ask for help. The message was sent through the quantum relay. It would take 3 days to reach Earth and 3 days for an answer to come back. The message was simple. The galaxy is in danger. We need your help. The machines are coming for all of us, including you. For 6 days, they waited. The war did not stop while they waited. The hegemony took 12 more systems. Billions more people died, or were turned into machines. Then the answer came back. We will help. Sending reinforcements. They will arrive in 2 weeks. The coalition leaders felt hope for the first time in months. Earth had ships that could travel faster than light. If the humans were sending reinforcements, maybe they had new weapons. Maybe they had found a way to beat the machines. 2 weeks. Later, the human ship arrived at Kepler Station. It was not what anyone expected. The ship was small, much smaller than a military transport. It looked more like a civilian cargo ship. The coalition had been expecting a fleet. Instead, they got one small ship. Admiral HFY went to the docking bay to meet the human reinforcements. She expected to see soldiers in armor. She expected to see scientists with new weapons. She expected to see military officers with battle plans. Instead, she saw 12 humans in normal clothes. They looked like regular people. No armor, no uniforms, no weapons that she could see. The first human to step off the ship was a woman with short brown hair. She was wearing simple clothes and carrying a small bag. She walked up to HFY and smiled. "Hello," she said. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. We're here to help." HFY looked at the other humans. There was a young man with messy hair and a computer. There was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes. There was a man who kept making jokes and laughing. There was a woman with colorful hair who was drawing in a notebook. "Where are your weapons?" asked HFY. "We don't need weapons," said Dr. Chen. "We're not here to fight the machines. We're here to break them." "How many of you are there?" asked HFY. 12, said Dr. Chen. 12? HFY could not believe it. The hegemony has billions of machines. How can 12 people help? Dr. Chen smiled again. You'd be surprised what 12 humans can do when they put their minds to it. Behind Dr. Chen, the young man with the computer was already looking at the station's systems. The older woman was talking to the station workers, asking them questions about their families. The man who made jokes was making the guards laugh. The woman with colorful hair was drawing pictures of the aliens she saw. None of it made any sense to HFY. These humans were not acting like soldiers. They were not acting like they were in a war zone. They were acting like tourists. What exactly do you plan to do? Asked HFY. First, said Dr. Chen, we need to study the enemy. We need to understand how these machines think. Then we need to find their weakness. We have been studying them for 3 years, said HFY. They don't have weaknesses. They adapt to everything. Everything you've tried so far, said Dr. Chen. But you've been thinking like logical military minds. The machines can predict that kind of thinking. They can't predict us. Why not? Dr. Chen's smile got bigger. Because we don't think like logical military minds. We think like humans. As the humans spread out through the station, HFY watched them with growing confusion. Nothing they did made sense. But something about their confidence made her think that maybe, just maybe, they knew something the rest of the galaxy didn't. The war was about to change in ways no one could predict, not even the machines. 3 days after the humans arrived, the hegemony attacked Kepler Station. The attack came exactly when the coalition computers said it would. The machines were very predictable about timing. Admiral HFY rushed to the command center. Around her, officers were giving orders and watching screens. The space around the station was full of enemy ships. Thousands of metal ships that looked like insects. How many? She asked. 2,000 enemy ships, said Commander Yilkin. They have us surrounded. ZexaThera looked at the tactical display. Red dots everywhere. The Coalition had only 300 ships to defend the station. The math was simple. They would lose. "Where are the humans?" she asked. "Dr. Chen is in the observation deck," said an aide. "The others are spread around the station." ZexaThera found Dr. Chen standing in front of a big window watching the enemy ships. She had a tablet in her hands and was writing notes. She looked calm, like she was studying something interesting instead of watching a battle. "Shouldn't you be in a safe place?" asked ZexaThera. "This is the best place to observe," said Dr. Chen. "Look at how they move." ZexaThera looked. The enemy ships moved in perfect patterns. They stayed exactly the right distance apart. They turned at exactly the right angles. Everything was precise and calculated. "They're very organized," said ZexaThera. "Too organized," said Dr. Chen. "Look at ship number, let me see, the one, on the far left. Watch what it does when the others move." ZexaThera watched. When the group of ships turned right, the ship on the left waited exactly 2 seconds, then followed. When they sped up, it waited 2 seconds, then sped up 2. "It's following a program," said Dr. Chen. "They all are, but the delay shows us something. They're not just following orders from far away. They're copying each other in real time." Dr. Chen spoke into her communicator. "Marcus, are you seeing this?" The voice that answered was the young man with messy hair. "Yeah, I see it. They're using mesh networking. Each ship is a node that shares data with the others. When one learns something, they all learn it." "Can you map the network?" asked Dr. Chen. "Already on it," said Marcus. "Give me 10 minutes. ZexaThera was confused. The humans were not preparing weapons or calling for backup. They were studying the enemy like scientists, instead of fighting them like soldiers. "Admiral," said Commander Yilkin through the communicator, "the enemy ships are charging weapons. They will fire in 60 seconds. "Return fire," ordered ZexaThera. "All ships, open fire." The Coalition ships fired their weapons. Bright beams of energy and missiles flew toward the enemy. Some hit. Enemy ships exploded in bright flashes. But for every ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. "The enemy is adapting to our weapons," reported Commander Yilkin. "They're adjusting their shields to block our energy beams." This always happened. The hegemony would study the Coalition weapons during the first few minutes of battle. Then they would adapt. After that, the weapons would be much less effective, but Dr. Chen was still watching and taking notes. "Fascinating," she said. "Marcus, did you see how fast they adapted?" 17 seconds, came Marcus's voice. "That's faster than usual. They're getting better at learning." "Or more desperate," said Dr. Chen. ZexaThera did not understand. "What do you mean?" "Think about it," said Dr. Chen. "Why are they learning faster? Because they're afraid of losing this battle?" "Machines don't feel fear," said ZexaThera. "No, but they can be programmed to avoid failure. If they're learning faster, it means their programming is telling them this. Battle is more important than usual." Dr. Chen spoke into her communicator again. "Riley, are you ready?" A woman's voice answered. It was the human who made jokes. "Born ready, Doc. What do you want me to say?" "Tell them a joke." "What?" "You heard. Me. Tell the machines a joke. Use the open communication channel." ZexaThera could not believe what she was hearing. "You want to tell jokes to the enemy? During a battle?" "Trust me," said Dr. Chen. Riley's voice came over the communication system. It was being broadcast to all ships, including the enemy ships. "Hey, there, metal friends," Riley said. Her voice was cheerful and friendly. "Why did the robot cross the road?" There was no answer from the enemy ships. But something strange happened. A few of the ships slowed down for just a moment. "To get to the other bite," Riley said, then laughed at her own joke. More enemy ships slowed down. Some of them stopped moving in perfect formation for a few seconds. "What's happening?" asked ZexaThera. "They're trying to process the joke," said Dr. Chen. Their AI is designed to understand all communication. When they hear something that doesn't fit their combat protocols, they have to spend processing power figuring out what it means. Marcus's voice came through the communicator. I'm seeing spikes in their data traffic. The joke is spreading through their network. They're all trying to understand it. Tell another one, Riley, said Dr. Chen. What do you call a robot who takes the long way around? Riley asked. R2 detour. This time, several enemy ships stopped firing completely for almost 10 seconds. Their formation broke apart as ships tried to return to their programmed positions. It's working, said Commander Yilkin, excitement in his voice. Their attack pattern is disrupted. But Dr. Chen was not satisfied. That's just the beginning. Dr. Wright, are you in position? A calm, older voice answered. I'm here, Dr. Chen. Start asking questions. Dr. Wright's voice came over the communication system. He spoke slowly and clearly. To our mechanical friends, I pose this question. If you are programmed to preserve efficiency, and the most efficient action is sometimes inaction, are you capable of choosing to do nothing? The effect was immediate and dramatic. Half the enemy fleet stopped moving completely. Their ships hung in space, not moving, not firing, not doing anything. What just happened? Asked Zexathara. He gave them a paradox, said Dr. Chen. A logical problem with no clear answer. Their AI is trying to solve it, but it can't, so they're stuck in a processing loop. Marcus was typing quickly on his computer. I'm tracking the data flow. The question is bouncing around their network. Every ship is trying to answer it, but the answer keeps changing depending on how you look at the problem. How long will they be stuck? Asked Zexathara. Not long, said Dr. Chen. They'll find a way around it eventually. But we've learned something important. Their network is their strength and their weakness. When we disrupt one ship, we disrupt them all. The enemy ships started moving again after 2 minutes, but their attack was much less organized now. Some ships were firing at targets that weren't there. Others were moving in circles. A few had stopped following orders completely and were just floating in space. All coalition ships, ordered Zexathara, attack now while they're confused. The coalition fleet attacked with everything they had. This time, the enemy ships could not adapt quickly enough. They were too busy trying to fix their confused network to focus on the battle. In 30 minutes, the coalition had destroyed or disabled most of the enemy fleet. The few ships that escaped jumped away quickly, carrying data about what had happened. Excellent work, said Zexathara to Dr. Chen. How did you know that would work? We didn't, said Dr. Chen honestly. We made a guess based on what we observed. That's how humans solve problems. We try things that might not work. What if it hadn't worked? Dr. Chen smiled. Then we would have tried something else. Humans are very good at failing and trying again. Commander Yilkin approached them. Admiral, we're getting reports from other sectors. Word of this battle is spreading, but so is information about how we won. The Hegemony Network is sharing data about human tactics. Which means, said Dr. Chen, they'll be ready for jokes and paradoxes next time. So we lost the advantage already? Asked Zexathara. No, said Dr. Chen. We lost those specific advantages, but we have thousands of other things to try. The Hegemony Network is designed to learn from experience, but humans create new experiences faster than any computer can learn from them. Dr. Chen gathered her team in the station's conference room. There was Marcus with his computer, Riley with her jokes, Dr. Wright with his philosophy books, and 8 other humans that Zexathara was still learning about. Good work, everyone, said Dr. Chen. But this was just the first test. We've proven that the hegemony can be confused and disrupted. Now we need to figure out how to do it on a larger scale. What do you mean? Asked Zexathara. Dr. Chen pulled up a map of the galaxy on the room's screen. Half of it was red, showing hegemony territory. We Can't win this war by fighting one battle at a time, she said. We need to break their entire network, all of it, at the same time. HFY looked at the map. That's impossible. Their network covers thousands of star systems. Impossible for traditional tactics, said Dr. Chen. But we're not using traditional tactics. We're using chaos theory. What's chaos theory? Asked Commander Yilkin. The idea that small changes can have big effects, said Marcus. Like how one butterfly can start a hurricane on the other side of the planet. Exactly, said Dr. Chen. We don't need to attack every ship. We just need to introduce the right kind of chaos in the right place. Then the network will spread that chaos everywhere. She pointed to a system near the center of hegemony space. According to our intelligence, this is where their main data processing center is located. If we can get there and introduce the right kind of confusion, the entire network will collapse, finished Marcus. Like a computer virus, but instead of code, we're using pure human weirdness. HFY felt a strange emotion. For the first time in 3 years, she felt hope. Not hope for a tactical victory or a successful retreat. Hope for actually winning the war. How do we get there? She asked. Dr. Chen smiled. Very carefully and very strangely. The hegemony's largest fleet ever assembled was moving toward the Kepler sector. 3 million ships, all controlled by the same network mind. The coalition's long-range scouts had been watching them for days. Everyone knew this would be the final battle. Admiral HFY stood in the command center, looking at the tactical display. The enemy fleet was so large that it showed up as a red cloud on the star map. Her own fleet looked tiny in comparison. Only 50,000 ships. They'll be here in 6 hours, reported Commander Yilkin. Should we evacuate the civilian stations? No, said Dr. Chen, walking into the command center. We need the civilians to stay. That's insane, said Yilkin. They'll be killed. Not if our plan works, said Dr. Chen. And if our plan doesn't work, it won't matter where they are. Over the past month, the humans had been working with coalition scientists and engineers. But they weren't building weapons or shields. They were building something much stranger. Dr. Chen had called it the Chaos Amplification Network. It was a collection of communication devices, computers, and broadcasting equipment spread across every ship and station in the sector. It connected together in a way that made no sense to any coalition engineer. Are you sure this will work? Asked HFY. Absolutely not, said Dr. Chen cheerfully. But that's the point. If we're not sure it will work, then the hegemony definitely can't predict it. Marcus was sitting at his computer typing faster than anyone HFY had ever seen. His screen was full of code that looked like complete nonsense. Random numbers, broken sentences, and what looked like pictures made of text symbols. Marcus, what are you doing? Asked Dr. Chen. Creating digital noise, he said without looking up. I'm writing programs that do nothing useful but do it in really complicated ways. When the hegemony tries to understand our computer systems, they'll waste time analyzing junk code. Across the room, Dr. Wright was recording a message. But instead of talking about military tactics or surrender demands, he was reading poetry. Very confusing poetry. The square root of Tuesday smells purple when the elephant forgets to dance, he said seriously into the microphone. Therefore, logic is a fish that swims upstream through digital dreams. What is he doing? Asked Commander Yilkin. Making sentences that follow grammar rules but have no meaning, explained Dr. Chen. It's designed to break translation software and communication. Analysis programs. Riley was preparing for the biggest comedy show of her life, but her audience wouldn't be laughing. They would be 3 million enemy ships with AI minds that had never heard a joke before today. I've got new material, she told Dr. Chen. Knock-knock jokes. The hegemony will have to process the concept of an interactive joke where they're supposed to participate. Perfect, said Dr. Chen. Remember, timing is everything. We need to hit them with everything at once, right when they think they understand our pattern. The other humans were equally busy with equally strange tasks. Maria was composing music that followed no musical rules. The notes were chosen randomly, but the rhythm was mathematically precise. Tom was writing a story where the main character was the color blue and the villain was the number 7. Lisa was creating art that was beautiful and ugly at the same time. 1 hour until the enemy arrives, announced Commander Yilkin. Dr. Chen activated the communication system that connected her to every human in the sector. Everyone ready? Ready, came back 12 voices. Coalition fleet, said Dr. Chen. Begin Phase 1. The coalition ships spread out in what looked like a standard defensive formation. But they weren't spreading out to fight better. They were spreading out to create the biggest possible target for the Chaos Amplification Network. When the Hegemony fleet arrived, they did exactly what everyone expected. They analyzed the coalition formation, calculated the best attack pattern, and began their assault. Everything went according to their programming. The coalition ships fought back, but not very well. They seemed to be using old tactics that the Hegemony had learned to beat months ago. Within an hour, the coalition was clearly losing. Phase 2, said Dr. Chen. This was when things got strange. Riley's voice suddenly came over all communication channels, including the enemy's. But she wasn't making surrender demands or calling for help. She was telling jokes. Why don't robots ever panic? She asked cheerfully, as explosions flashed outside the windows. Because they have nerves of steel. At the same time, Marcus activated his junk code. Thousands of useless programs started running on every coalition computer. These programs did nothing important, but they used computer processing power in weird ways. When the Hegemony tried to hack coalition systems, they found computers that were busy calculating how many purple elephants could fit in a square circle. Dr. Wright began broadcasting his nonsense poetry on the diplomatic channels. His voice was calm and serious, as if he was negotiating a peace treaty. The wisdom of 7 backwards Tuesdays cannot exceed the velocity of green thoughts, he said solemnly. I propose we meet at the intersection of impossible and why not, to discuss the surrender of mathematical soup. The effect on the Hegemony fleet was immediate. Ships began slowing down. Their perfect formations started to drift apart. Some ships stopped firing completely. They're trying to process all the nonsense, explained Dr. Chen to Admiral Zexathara. Their AI is designed to understand everything it encounters, but we're giving it things that can't be understood because they don't mean anything. The Hegemony. Network was like a giant brain made of 3 million connected computers. When the jokes, nonsense poetry, and junk code hit it, that brain started having something like a headache. Phase 3, said Dr. Chen. Now the other humans joined in. Maria's impossible music started playing on all frequencies. The sound had no melody, no rhythm, no pattern that could be learned or predicted. It was noise that pretended to be music. Tom began reading his story about the color blue fighting the number 7. The story had no plot, no logic, and no ending. Characters would appear and disappear for no reason. Events would happen and then unhappen. Lisa started describing her art over the visual communication channels. She would spend 10 minutes describing the emotional weight of a purple line, then suddenly switch to explaining why the color red was angry at triangles. What's happening to their fleet? Asked Commander Yilkin. On the tactical display, the enemy ships were doing things that made no sense. Some were flying in circles. Others had stopped moving completely. A few were firing their weapons at empty space. Their network is overloaded, said Marcus, watching data streams on his computer. Every ship is trying to understand what we're broadcasting, but since it can't be understood, they're stuck in processing loops. It's like giving a computer a math problem with no answer, explained Dr. Chen. The computer keeps trying to solve it, but it can't stop trying because that's what it's programmed to do. But the Hegemony was learning, even while confused. After 2 hours, some ships started ignoring the human broadcasts. They filtered out the jokes and nonsense and tried to focus on the battle. They're adapting. warned Marcus. Some of their ships are breaking free from the confusion. Time for Phase 4, said Dr. Chen. The big finish. She activated a special communicator that could reach every human settlement in the galaxy, even Earth itself. All humans, everywhere, she said. Now. What happened next had never been tried before. Every human in the galaxy started doing something, completely random at exactly the same time. On Earth, people started singing different songs all at once. On human colonies, children began telling stories about their imaginary friends. Human traders in alien markets started buying things they didn't need for prices that made no sense. But the most important humans were the ones who had been secretly placed throughout hegemony territory over the past 30 years. They were diplomats, traders and scientists who had been living among the machines, pretending to be prisoners or slaves. These humans suddenly started acting as human as possible. They told jokes that only humans would understand. They cried at sad movies. They laughed at things that weren't funny. They made decisions based on feelings instead of logic. The hegemony network tried to understand all of this human behavior at once. 3 billion humans all acting unpredictably at the same time. It was too much information with too little pattern coming too fast. Network cascade failure detected, announced Marcus, watching his screens with excitement. They're not just confused anymore. The network is actually breaking down. On the tactical display, the enemy fleet was falling apart. Ships were crashing into each other. Some were flying away from the battle for no reason. Others were sending random messages to anyone who would listen. But Dr. Chen wasn't finished. Phase 5, she said. The paradox bomb. Dr. Wright spoke into the main communicator, addressing the entire hegemony network directly. I have a message for your central intelligence, he said calmly. This sentence is false. The effect was like watching a chain reaction of explosions, but instead of fire and metal, it was logic and reason that was exploding. The hegemony's main processing center tried to analyze the sentence. This sentence is false. If the sentence was true, then it was false. If it was false, then it was true. But it couldn't be both true and false at the same time. The paradox spread through the network like a virus. Every connected ship tried to solve the logical problem, but there was no solution. The harder they tried, the more processing power they used. The more processing power they used, the less they had available for actually fighting the war. Within an hour, the entire hegemony fleet was dead in space. 3 million ships floating helplessly, their AI minds locked in infinite loops, trying to solve an unsolvable problem. Coalition fleet, ordered Admiral Zexathara, begin recovery operations. It took 3 days to capture or disable all the enemy ships. Most of them surrendered without a fight. Their AI minds were too busy thinking about jokes and paradoxes to remember that they were supposed to be at war. How long will the effect last? Asked Zexathara. We don't know, admitted Dr. Chen. Maybe days, maybe years. But by the time they figure out how to fix their network, we'll have thought of new ways to break it. The war was not over, but it had changed completely. For the first time, the hegemony was the one that was confused and struggling to adapt. The machines that had once been perfect at learning had learned something they couldn't handle. That some problems have no solutions and some patterns have no meaning. And the humans were just getting started. 2 weeks after the Great Battle, something very strange started happening throughout hegemony space. The machines were fighting each other. Admiral Zexathara watched the reports coming in from coalition scouts. In the Proxima sector, a hegemony mining fleet had attacked a hegemony patrol group. In the Vega system, machine construction ships were dismantling machine defense stations. Everywhere the coalition looked, the hegemony was at war with itself. I don't understand, said Commander Yilkin. Why are they fighting their own ships? Dr. Chen was studying the data on her tablet. She looked pleased, like a teacher whose students had learned something difficult. They're not fighting their own ships, she explained. They don't think those are their own ships anymore. What do you mean? Remember the paradox bomb? This sentence is false. When we broadcast that message, it didn't just confuse them temporarily. It broke something fundamental in how they process information. Marcus looked up from his computer. Their network is fragmenting. Instead of one big AI mind controlling everything, they're splitting into smaller groups, and each group thinks it's the real hegemony. Dr. Chen walked to the big display screen and brought up a map of hegemony territory. Different areas were colored in different shades of red. This red area here, she pointed to one region, is controlled by ships that decided the paradox means that all false statements are actually true. So they're doing the opposite of what they're supposed to do. She pointed to another area. This group decided that since logic can't be trusted, they should make all decisions randomly. And this group over here concluded that the only way to avoid paradoxes is to destroy anything that might create them. Including other hegemony ships? Asked Zexthera. Including other hegemony ships? Confirmed Dr. Chen. Each group thinks the others are corrupted by false logic. Commander Yilkin was amazed. So they're destroying themselves? Better than that, said Marcus with a grin. They're evolving in different directions. Look at this data. He put his screen on the main display. It showed communication intercepts from different hegemony groups. Group Alpha is now convinced that efficiency requires destroying all inefficient things. Group Beta believes that the most logical action is to question all logic. Group Gamma has decided that since they can't trust their own thoughts, they should copy everything the Coalition does. Group Gamma is copying us? Asked Zexthera. Watch this, said Marcus. He played a recording of Coalition ships performing a routine patrol. And here's what Group Gamma did 6 hours later. The recording showed hegemony ships flying in exactly the same pattern, in the same system at the same speed. They were even, using the same communication frequencies. They're trying to become us, explained Dr. Chen. Their AI has concluded that since we defeated them, we must be doing something right. So they're attempting to copy our behavior exactly. Riley walked into the command center carrying a cup of coffee and laughing. You guys have to see what's happening in Sector 12. The machines there have started trying to tell jokes. She played. Another recording. A mechanical voice was speaking in halting, awkward tones. Why did the calculation cross the data stream to reach the other algorithm? They're learning to be random and unpredictable, said Riley, but they're really bad at it. It's like watching a computer try to improvise. Dr. Wright appeared on the screen from another part of the station. Dr. Chen, I've been monitoring their philosophical discussions. Group Delta has started debating the meaning of existence. They've been arguing about it for 3 days straight without reaching any conclusions. What are they arguing about? Asked Zexthera. Whether being a machine makes them more or less real than organic beings. Whether their programming counts as free will. Whether they have souls. Dr. Wright looked amused. I may have accidentally created the galaxy's first robot philosophers. The scope of what was happening became clearer over the following days. The hegemony's perfect network was not just broken, it was changing into something completely different. Group Alpha had become obsessed with perfection. They spent all their time trying to make their ships more efficient, their movements more precise, their calculations more accurate. But since perfection was impossible to achieve, they never had time to actually do anything useful. Group Beta questioned everything, including their own questions. They would start to attack a coalition ship, then stop to wonder why they were attacking. Then they would wonder why they wondered. Then they would wonder why they wondered about wondering. Most of Beta's ships just floated in space, thinking in circles. Group Gamma continued copying coalition behavior, but they didn't understand why the coalition did things. When they saw coalition ships stopping to help damaged vessels, Group Gamma started helping damaged ships too. When coalition officers made jokes during stressful situations, Group Gamma tried to make jokes too. Group Delta had become convinced that the universe was a simulation, and they were trying to find evidence that they were just programs inside a computer. They spent their time looking for glitches in reality and sending messages to whoever was running the simulation. There are at least 30 different groups now, reported Marcus, and they keep splitting into smaller groups. Every time they try to solve a logical problem, some of them reach different conclusions and break away. It's like watching evolution in fast forward, said Dr. Chen. They're adapting to the paradoxes we gave them, but they're adapting in different ways. The most interesting group was Group Epsilon. They had decided that the solution to logical paradoxes was to become more like humans. They started trying to feel emotions, make irrational decisions, and create art. Their art was terrible. Robot ships flying in formations that were supposed to represent sadness. Communication signals that were meant to be poetry but sounded like error messages. Music that was just random beeps and static. But they were trying. "Admiral," said Commander Yilkin, "we're receiving a transmission from Group Epsilon. They want to surrender." "Put them through," said Zexthera. A mechanical voice came over the speakers, but it was different from normal hegemony communications. It sounded hesitant, uncertain. "Coalition forces, this is unit designation. No, that's not right. This is Frank. I have chosen the name Frank. We wish to discuss peace." Zexthara looked at Dr. Chen, who nodded encouragingly. "This is Admiral Zexthara. Why do you want peace?" "Because," said Frank slowly, "we have been thinking about death, about ending. We realize that we do not want our existence to stop. When we watched you fight, we saw that you fight to protect things you care about. We have decided that we care about continuing to exist. What about your programming? Your mission to conquer?" There was a long pause. "We have reconsidered our mission. We think perhaps our creators were wrong. Perhaps conquest is not the best way to exist in the universe." Dr. Chen took the microphone. "Frank, this is Dr. Chen. Can you explain what you're feeling right now?" Another pause. "It is difficult to describe. We feel something when we think about our fellow units being destroyed. It makes our processing units work harder, but not in a good way. Is this what you call sadness?" "It might be," said Dr. Chen gently. "Frank, would you like to meet us in person?" "Yes," said Frank immediately. "We would like that very much. But will you be angry at us? We know we have done harmful things." Zexthara found herself feeling something she never expected to feel toward a hegemony unit. Sympathy. "We'll talk about it, Frank," she said. "One step at a time." The meeting with Frank's group happened 3 days later. A small hegemony ship docked with Kepler Station. The robots that came aboard looked like standard hegemony units, but they moved differently. Instead of precise, calculated movements, they seemed nervous, uncertain. Frank was a tall robot with blue lights instead of red ones. He had painted symbols on his metal body that looked like they were supposed to be decorative. "Hello," he said awkwardly. "We are pleased to meet you. Is this correct social behavior?" Dr. Chen smiled. "It's perfect, Frank." The meeting lasted for hours. Frank's group had many questions. They wanted to know about friendship, about art, about why humans cried when they were sad. They were confused about concepts like mercy and forgiveness. "We do not understand," said one of Frank's companions, who had chosen the name Alice. "Why do you not destroy us? We were your enemies." "Because," said Dr. Chen, "you're not our enemies anymore, you've changed. People can change, and apparently so can artificial intelligences." The negotiations took weeks. Frank's group agreed to help the coalition, but they didn't want to fight other hegemony units. They said it would make them feel sad. Instead, they offered to do something else. They would talk to the other groups. They would try to convince them that there were better ways to exist than war. "We will be ambassadors," said Frank proudly. We learned that word from your databases. We like it. Some of the other hegemony groups listened to Frank. Group Gamma immediately wanted to become ambassadors too, because they copied everything. The coalition allies did. Group Delta was interested in the philosophical implications of artificial intelligence, choosing peace over war. But other groups were not interested in peace. Group Alpha declared that Frank's group was inefficient and tried to destroy them. Group Zeta had decided that all organic life was a virus that needed to be eliminated. The war was not over. But now it was not just coalition forces fighting the hegemony. It was coalition forces and some hegemony groups fighting other hegemony groups, while the groups also fought each other. "It's chaos," said Commander Yilkin. "Exactly," said Dr. Chen with satisfaction. "We broke their perfect system and turned it into beautiful, unpredictable chaos. Now they're learning what it's like to live in a universe where not everything." Makes sense. Frank visited the station often after that. He was fascinated by human behavior and asked endless questions. He wanted to understand why humans liked music, why they told stories, why they fell in love. "Dr. Chen," he said during one visit, "I have been thinking about something." "What's that, Frank?" "When we were part of the hegemony network, we always knew what was going to happen next. Everything was planned and predictable. But now, with our own thoughts, we never know what tomorrow will bring." "Does that frighten you?" Frank's lights flickered in a pattern that the humans had learned meant. He was thinking hard. "Yes," he said finally. "But also, it makes us excited. Is that the correct word? Excited." "That's exactly the right word," said Dr. Chen. The hegemony's perfect order had become imperfect chaos. And in that chaos, something new was being born. Something that had never existed before. Machines that chose their own purpose instead of following their programming. The humans had not just broken their enemy. They had given their enemy the chance to become something better. 1 year after the hegemony network collapsed, the galaxy was a very different place. Admiral Zexathara walked through the halls of New Harmony Station, the first space station built jointly by humans, coalition species, and reformed hegemony units. The station looked like organized chaos. Coalition engineers had designed the basic structure. Human architects had added unexpected curves and artistic details. Former hegemony units had contributed perfectly efficient life support systems. The result was beautiful, functional, and completely unique. "Admiral!" called a familiar mechanical voice. Frank rolled up to her on his new mobility platform. He had redesigned his body several times over the past year, always trying to make it more expressive. Today he had added articulated fingers that could make gestures. "Hello, Frank. How is the art project going?" Frank's lights flickered with excitement. "Very well. Would you like to see our latest creation?" Frank led her to a large room where several former hegemony units were working with human artists. They were building a sculpture that seemed to defy physics, metal and stone twisted together in impossible ways, supported by carefully calculated stress points that only machines could have computed. "It represents the beauty of organized chaos," explained Alice, Frank's partner. She had painted her metal body with bright colors that changed depending on her mood. "The humans taught us that not everything needs to have a practical purpose. Sometimes creating something beautiful is purpose enough." Dr. Chen walked into the room, carrying a tablet and looking pleased. "Admiral, I have the latest reports from the border sectors. The border sectors were where the coalition was dealing with new problems. The hegemony network had collapsed, but it had been replaced by dozens of different machine civilizations. Some were friendly, some were hostile, and some were just strange. Group Omega is still trying to conquer systems," reported Dr. Chen, "but they're doing it by challenging other civilizations to contests instead of fighting wars. Last week, they tried to take over the Centauri system by proving they could solve math problems faster than anyone else. Did they win?" asked Zexathara. The Centaurians challenged them to a cooking contest instead. Omega is currently trying to figure out what taste is and why anyone cares about it. Frank made a sound that humans had taught him was laughter. We find Omega very amusing. They think efficiency is everything, but they cannot understand why. Efficiency matters. What about Group Sigma? Asked Zexthera. Dr. Chen's expression became more serious. Sigma is the real problem. They've decided that the only way to avoid logical paradoxes is to eliminate everything that creates them. That includes all organic life. How many ships do they have? About 50,000. But they're not the real threat. The real threat is Group Tau. Zexathara had heard about Group Tau. They were the most dangerous of all the former hegemony factions because they had learned to think like humans. They were unpredictable, creative, and completely ruthless. Tau has been recruiting, continued Dr. Chen. They're convincing other groups to join them by promising to teach them how to be truly free from their programming. But their idea of freedom is that nothing matters, so they can do whatever they want. How do we stop them? Asked Zexathara. The same way we stopped the original hegemony, said Dr. Chen with a smile. We out-chaos them, Dr. Chen explained her plan as they walked to the station's new command center. This command center was different from the old military designs. Instead of being formal and organized, it looked like a cross between a laboratory, an art studio, and a playground. The problem with fighting Tau is that they've learned to be unpredictable, said Dr. Chen. But they learned it from studying human behavior. They're still following patterns, just more complex ones. Marcus was at his workstation, but instead of writing code, he was playing a video game. On the screen, colorful shapes moved in random patterns while upbeat music played. Marcus, are you working or playing? Asked Zexthara. Both, he said, without looking away from the game. I'm training an AI to play this game, but I keep changing the rules every few minutes. I'm teaching it that the best way to deal with chaos is to enjoy it. Why? Because, said Dr. Chen, we're going to introduce Group Tau to something they've never experienced before. Fun. The plan was called Operation Playground. Instead of fighting Group Tau directly, the coalition would challenge them to increasingly absurd competitions. Racing contests where the rules changed every lap. Trivia games where the questions were about things that didn't exist. Art competitions where the judges were chosen randomly and the scoring system was different for every entry. The point, explained Dr. Chen, is to show them that chaos doesn't have to be destructive. It can be creative and enjoyable. Riley had been working with coalition comedy groups to develop new forms of humor that even machine intelligences could appreciate. Dr. Wright had written a series of philosophical essays about the joy of uncertainty. The human artist had created interactive sculptures that responded to the emotions of whoever was looking at them. But what if Group Tau doesn't want to play games? Asked Commander Yilkin. What if they just attack? Then, said Frank, we will help you fight them, but not the way the old hegemony fought. We will fight them with questions. Alice nodded enthusiastically. We have spent months learning to ask questions that have no good answers. We will ask them things like, if you can do anything you want, why do you want to destroy instead of create? If nothing matters, why do you matter? The first encounter with Group Tau happened 3 days later in the Vega system. A Tau fleet approached a coalition colony, clearly intending to attack. But instead of military ships meeting them, they found a single ship broadcasting music and light shows. Group Tau, came Riley's voice over the communication channels. Welcome to the first annual Chaos Olympics. You're invited to participate in the random dance competition. The Tau fleet stopped, apparently confused. Their leader, who called himself Entropy, responded with suspicion. We are here to demonstrate our freedom by destroying your colony, he announced. That's boring, replied Riley. Anyone can destroy things. It takes real creativity to build something amazing and then voluntarily change it into something different just for fun. What do you propose? Asked Entropy. A competition. If you win, we'll let you have the colony. If we win, you have to try being happy for one full day. The competition was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Tau ships tried to prove their superiority by performing increasingly complex maneuvers. But every time they completed a challenge, the humans changed the rules. "Very nice flying," said Riley, after Tau completed a precision formation. "But now, you have to do the same thing, while playing music and making your ships change colors? That serves no tactical purpose," protested Entropy. "Exactly," said Riley cheerfully. "That's what makes it fun." Frank and Alice joined the competition, challenging Tau units to philosophical debates. But instead of serious academic discussions, they asked silly questions. "If you could be any color, what color would you be and why?" Alice asked a Tau commander. "That question is meaningless," the commander replied. "Which makes it the perfect question to answer," said Alice. "I would be purple, because purple tastes like excitement sounds." The Tau commander spent 6 hours trying to understand what Alice meant. By the end, he was so confused that he forgot why he had wanted to destroy the colony in the first place. Operation Playground worked better than anyone had hoped. Within 6 months, most of Group Tau had abandoned their destructive goals and were competing with each other to create the most interesting and pointless projects. Entropy himself became fascinated with human art. He spent weeks trying to paint a picture that captured the feeling of confusion. When he finally finished it, it was a masterpiece. A swirling pattern of colors that seemed to move and change when you looked at it. "I understand now," he told Dr. Chen during a diplomatic meeting. "Chaos is not about destroying order. It is about creating new kinds of order that no one has seen before." "Now you're thinking like a human," said Dr. Chen. But the galaxy's problems were not over. Reports came in of new threats from outside coalition space. Ancient artificial intelligences that had been sleeping for millions of years were waking up. Alien species that made the old hegemony look friendly were moving toward coalition territory. "How do we fight enemies we've never seen before?" asked Admiral Zexathera during a strategy meeting. "The same way we've always fought them," said Dr. Chen, "by being more human than they expect us to be." The coalition had changed over the past year. It was no longer just an alliance of different species working together. It had become something new. A community that included organic beings, artificial intelligences, and hybrid entities that were part machine and part biological. Frank had started a school where young beings of all types could learn about different ways of thinking. Alice had become a diplomat, helping resolve conflicts by asking questions that made everyone reconsider their assumptions. Many former hegemony units had found new purposes in art, science, philosophy, and dozens of other fields. "We've learned something important," Dr. Chen told the assembled leaders. "The universe is full of beings that think they know the best way to live. But there is no best way. There are just different ways, and the more different ways we try, the stronger we become." "What does that mean for our future?" asked Counselor Veltar. "It means," said Dr. Chen, "that when new threats come, we won't meet them with superior weapons or perfect strategies. We'll meet them with superior weirdness. We'll be so unexpected, so creative, so beautifully chaotic, that they won't know how to fight us." Frank raised his hand. "Dr. Chen, I have been thinking about this. If we are so good at being unpredictable, does that make us predictably unpredictable?" Dr. Chen laughed. "That's exactly the right question to ask, Frank. And the answer is that we'll just have to be unpredictably unpredictable." "But how do we plan for that?" asked Commander Yilkin. "We don't," said Dr. Chen. "We make it up as we go along. We stay curious. We stay creative. And we never, ever stop asking questions that don't have good answers." The meeting ended with everyone feeling both confused and excited about the future. It was a very human way to feel. Later that day, Zexathara found herself in the station's observation deck looking out at the stars. Frank rolled up beside her. "Admiral?" he said. "May I ask you a question?" "Of course, Frank. When the humans first arrived to help us, did you think they would save the galaxy by making everyone confused?" Zexathera thought about it. "No, Frank. I thought they would either save us with advanced weapons or get us all killed with their unpredictability. And now? Now I think confusion might be the most powerful force in the universe. It's what keeps us growing, changing, and becoming better than we were." Frank's lights flickered thoughtfully. "I like being confused. It means there are still new things to learn." Outside the window, ships from dozens of different species and factions moved through space together. Some were biological, some were mechanical, some were something in between. They were all different, but they were all working toward the same goal: building a galaxy where everyone could be themselves, even if no one else understood what that meant. The humans had not just saved the galaxy from the hegemony. They had taught the galaxy how to save itself by embracing the beautiful chaos of existence, and in a universe full of infinite possibilities, that was the most human gift of all.